here.
Long and McQuade.
Thanks for having me, my friend.
Thanks for being here.
So we got Hawksley Workman here, and we are doing a series called Geeks and Gear. We're going to check out some of his favorite guitars, get nerdy, talk about some of the rack gear he's got here, and yeah, thanks again. So yeah, what can you tell us about the studio you built here?
I can tell you a lot about the studio.
Yeah.
So this studio is built in a garage. It was my first and only attempt at building a truly soundproof building. Mm-hmm. So that in and of itself, when we left Montreal just before the pandemic, we moved to Peterborough, which is where we are here. And we bought kind of a suburban type house with a large garage, which I'd always dreamed of as a kid. I grew up in the sticks and we didn't have paved driveways or anything, you know. Right. For me, I was like, wow, I get a paved driveway and a garage. Like, this is amazing. But I knew I didn't want any of my neighbors to hear me because I want to be, a good neighbor, but also I get really self-conscious, even if if I think my wife can hear me, like, figuring out lyrics and stuff. Like, I like to feel like I am in my own universe and no one can touch me.
Yeah.
And so I built a building within a building for this particular room. So just the construction in and of itself was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because the crazy thing about building a soundproof room is you don't know if it works until you've spent all the money, done all the stuff, because they say basically through the process, anybody who's done it is telling you, don't cut any corners. Yeah. Don't cut any corners, because you don't know if your soundproof room is going to work in the end anyway. So it's a very weird process because there's no way to test it until it is absolutely finished. Yeah. So we didn't cut any corners. This room does not touch the outer garage. So it's been tested. I have a neighbor 4 doors down who does all of his woodwork with the garage door open, and he's the loudest guy on the street, and nobody hears me. Nobody knows. I mean, everybody kind of on the street knows that I don't fit in, but they also don't hear anything that's going on.
Yeah.
So that's where just the basic construction of the studio is at. It's a terrible sounding room. So I had to kind of go out of my way to get a lot of the sound treatment that you can probably see. Mm-hmm. Both on the ceiling. Like, it was one of these situations where I wanted to make it soundproof, and that was the bigger goal than to a like Martin Pilchner or something type design where I was going to have the angles were going to be right. And of course, I'm sure there's people at home going, well, this sucks then. But it was just a compromise. And so I've been in rooms that I know sound bad, and if you deaden them up enough, they can become effective spaces.
For sure.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I built an all-carpeted room.
I love it.
Because we were basically in a Pantera cover band.
Hey, man.
And we had 5150s. We had stacks and racks everywhere. It was like the craziest loud band ever, and I don't know how Blair did not wear ear protection. But when you closed the door, you started losing your balance a bit because it was head-to-toe carpeted. And I didn't know anything about soundproofing, and I was very disappointed when I went upstairs and I asked my brother to play the drums just to see how soundproof it was.
Yeah.
He could just like going right through the studs.
Yeah. Soundproof and sound treatment are two different things, and it's funny how
in a big way, yeah.
Like, this building is soundproof, but it doesn't sound very good.
Okay.
I can't be heard outside, but the shape of this room is mathematically, it doesn't add up to a nice sounding room.
Okay, so when you're playing drums in here, how far out can you hear anything in the house?
Sadly, you can hear in the house, but you can't hear out. Nobody on the street.
Nothing?
No.
Okay.
Very little. It would have to be a silent day, and you would have to be walking right by my house very quietly to hear what. It's low frequency, always with soundproofing. It's like nobody's ever going to hear cymbals or piano playing or guitar amps.
Right.
You're going to hear what we all hear in cities on the weekends after dark. There's that subtle bass thing. That's just a very difficult frequency to control. Yeah. And those types of sound waves are huge, and they're moving. They're a large sound wave moving easily through objects. So, yes, you could maybe hear a bit of kick drum. So these were the two first real guitars I bought. I'm tragically frugal, so I would play not good instruments because they were the right price. Anyways, I had a friend, he said, look, there's these new things, these JV Squires from Japan in these early 80s JVs. He's like, I have a feeling these are going to become a big deal someday because he's like, they're just as good, if not better, than the US stuff that was coming out at the same time. So he gave me the tip that like, hey, JVs are going to be worth something someday. And they are. So this was like a $300 guitar back in the day. That's probably, I mean, it's got the mojo and it's been worn out. I've added a Bigsby. Pretty much everything, as you can see, has a Bigsby or a whammy bar.
Yep.
That's just hangover from being an 80s kid and thinking that it's not a guitar unless you can...
You need that. You need a little bit of it.
You need that.
Yep.
So this was my first guitar. I toured the world with this for the first couple of years, doing a lot of solo stuff. Then I started to bring the band to Europe as things were happening, and I was like, I need a big guitar because we were playing these big festivals. You know,
so that's Japanese?
This is Japanese.
Okay, yeah.
80s Squire Telly JV series. This is like a 74.
Standard?
I don't know.
Les Paul standard?
I guess.
Okay.
Whatever's written on that doodad.
Yeah.
The headstock broken off, like it was an $800.
It's not a real Les Paul unless the headstock's been broken.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's...
My SG I got from Long McQuade here in Peterborough, it was a headstock break. To me, I know that this guitar I've put in my mono soft case and put it on an airplane all over the world, and it always comes out fine.
Okay, right.
So, I don't know. They glued it on right. I don't have much to say about it. So these two guitars have kind of been my main two guys.
Yeah. Oh, they did a good job. Can't feel any ridges.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of gone away.
Yeah.
I got really into Stratocasters.
Right. Oh,
And how to use Stratocasters.
Yeah.
As a kid, I never understood Stratocasters. They always sounded terrible to me, thin and weird. But then once I realized a Stratocaster is more like a percussion instrument. I mean, obviously guitar is a percussion instrument. I tend to play guitar like a drummer, like boom, chick, boom, chick, jigga-doom, chick, jigga-doom, chick, jigga-doom. My rhythm on the guitar is more or less populated with a kick snare feel anyway.
You're coming from a drummer's background. You can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you're going to play like that kind of like Quincy Jones type, slickety R&B type stuff, it's more emphasizes 2 and 4. You don't want to cover 1s and 3s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've just been feeling that a lot lately, and I've just been interested in guitars and interested in the vocabulary that comes from a different instrument. Like, you know, the J Masochist Squire.
Hell yeah.
Which is kind of like, if I own 2 of them, I would own 52 of them. To be honest with you, it's a very inexpensive guitar to put into my mono case and to throw on an airplane, and in some ways I mean, they've always come out looking and sounding great.
You pull that one out?
Yeah, man.
That's a beauty. And that's the actual J Masoch.
The J Masochist Squire, with the signature.
Oh, there you go.
And I bought it in Montreal from a guy for small hundreds.
Yeah.
And like, even, I know there's still like a $600 guitar. Like, you just don't need anything else.
Yeah.
And I love the offset feeling. I love how offset looks in photos. I hate to say.
I'm glad you're not like a full-on Fender snob about it. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
You love it, and that's what feels good to you. Go for it. You're playing it live.
Yeah, I'm surprised because there have been people like, oh, you're playing a Squire, and like,
yes.
Maybe because as a kid I could never afford Fenders. Like I had to get happy with a Squire. Like it's like, oh, like this is what I can do with my allowance, and like. Yeah. And like I'll dream, one day I'll have a Fender. I feel like,
but there's some Squires.
That is the first Fender I ever.
There's some Squires and there's some Epiphones that play just as good as the Gibsons or the Fenders.
It's 100% true. And I've picked up very expensive guitars that are absolutely lousy. So,
yes, fully agree.
Yeah, an instrument is. It doesn't. There's no real saying what it's going to be until you sit with it.
Yeah.
I remember the day that I decided, I had a Larrivee that I'd bought when I was a teenager. Again, trying to be Bruce Coburn. I was on a tour when I was a kid. And I played that Larrivee for 20 years until I bought a Martin where you play a G, like an old-fashioned G on a certain kind of Martin. It's like, holy! Like, that's the sound of records.
Yes.
And I hate to say it, but I kind of let go of my beloved Larrivee, and I kind of got into some of these things. There's just something about a Martin strums, the right kind, and I played a bunch. I remember going with my brother. My brother's a Neil Young guy, and my brother's got a lot of heart. He's just one of these guys. He's just got an authentic thing about him. He's a very cool guy, rides motorbikes. He's that type of guy. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to go shop for Martin. Come with me. He's like, he was trying them too, and I don't know. And then I hit this one. I just played the G, and even he was like, "Whoa!" I handed it to him, and he's like, "This has got to be it." And I'm like, "Dude, this is it." Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you follow Eric Epstein, an American intellectual, like public intellectual,
Okay.
who's also he's a guitar hobbyist, but a deep geek guy, and it just
Right.
kind of he was like, as a hobbyist, these are the 7 things I've realized about great guitar players lately. One of them was, he said, across the board, it doesn't matter how professional, who they are, guitar players skew to instruments that they have an aesthetic attraction to.
Right.
And I think and it's going to sound terrible, but I've never bought a guitar I didn't look at myself holding in the mirror before, because it's like, this is just a machine,
Yeah.
and I know how to use this machine.
Yeah.
It's a machine for making rock and roll music,
Yeah.
and I want the machine to appeal to me in absolutely every way possible, because I want there to be no barrier between me waking up and making music. If the guitar doesn't look right, you're not going to pick it up.
No.
It doesn't feel right,
100%.
you're not going to pick it up. This is the thing with instruments, like, you can make an excuse for an instrument for a long time, and that instrument sits and collects dust, and it's like, that instrument is telling you what it needs to be, and it needs to be away from you, because neither of you like one another.
Yes.
And that means that, like, you're never going to make music together. So
Yeah.
move along.
Yes.
Like, just because you think, no, I'm the type that's going to need a telly. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
You might not be the type that needs a telly, but maybe, it's really hard to say. Or I'm always blown away by the Godin stuff. Like, I loved Godin when I was a kid because they made those really great Acousticasters and the Acoustic-caster basses.
Yeah.
That to me, like, appealed. I was like, I wanted to be like a Dave Woodhead, like, bass player to the folk stars kind of guy. And I was like, ooh, that's what I want. And I still see the Godin stuff, and it's like, pound for pound, I'll bet you everything they make is pretty good.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't really bought anything recently, but I owned a lot of Godin stuff in the early days, and it's very competitive, made me feel excellent. It made me feel cool. If I put on a guitar and it makes me feel cool, I will play cool. If I put a guitar on that doesn't make me feel cool, I mean, it's just science.
I did buy a fancy looking hot rod guitar, and I was like, this is what I need on stage. A year later, sold it.
Yeah.
The tone wasn't there. The sound, it wasn't there. It looked flashy, but I was like, no, Phil, take this off my hands. It just wasn't for me.
An instrument that you take on the road, you have to be ready for there to be at least a sliver of an abusive aspect to that. That guitar is going to fall off a stand.
Yeah.
That guitar is going to be unloved briefly by somebody.
Yeah.
It's going to be picked up and put in the wrong spot, or leaned up a wrong spot, or on an amp and it's a slide off. And for me, I need to take a guitar out that I don't feel like I'm going to have to get a second mortgage if that guitar... We toured with a friend of mine in Mounties, which was my sort of side project from Vancouver. We had some hits.
Cool.
Ryan Dahl and Steve Bass. And so Ryan Dahl, one tour, decided to take his early 60s Strat out on the road with us, because he's like, I want to be a guy. You own these guitars. I think it's a 64. I want to play my 64 Strat on stage. Of course.
Yeah.
The hilarious thing was the 3 weeks we were out on the road with that 64 Strat, like, everybody's life had to conform to, where's the Strat? Where are we going with the Strat? Are we going out for dinner? We got to take the Strat.
Yeah.
Did you get the Strat? The Strat coming into the hotel? Get the Strat for the hotel. And I was just like,
It's a little much.
what a pain.
Yeah,
like,
that's a little much.
with the Squire, like, it's not cheap. $600 is not cheap to anybody.
Yeah.
But frankly, if
you blew it up.
it's not going to change my life as much as if the Les Paul, which I almost don't take out anymore because of that. It's like, yeah, I bought it for $800, but I could probably sell that thing for $4,000 now. And it's like, now I've got these stupid, like, now there's the economics piece, or, and I'm like, I'll just take this. Anyway, I got this out too. I don't know.
Let's talk about it.
52, Fender Deluxe.
You tell me,
I have this out today because this young band that I've started in town here were called You Might Be Dumb. And I said, look, because I'm working with a young local guy named Tristan Conkle, who's a genius. But, he's 20 years old, and so he's not maybe mic'd an amp. Like, I grew up miking amps.
Yeah.
I love that I don't have to mic amps anymore. Like, because I never was really able to get the kind of amp sound that I wanted. It was the hardest sound to get for me. It was like an amp tone. For Tristan today, we're going to mic this baby up, because I think he's probably never seen what a guitar amp signal chain, what it can do, what it can't do, what the problems are. Like, do you mic something like this with a dynamic mic? Like, how do you do this? Because really, like, it's a complex thing to get a good amp tone, and I don't know if it's necessarily achievable just with... oh, I've got the right mic and the right amp and the right this. It's like, that doesn't mean you're going to get a good sound. Like, I don't know what it is about electric guitar, but I feel like I strike out more than I win.
Yeah, and in a situation like that, 57 condenser, those two, and you're golden. But everybody's got different things. Like I did a SM7B on a Marshall amp the other day, and then the guitar player's like, I didn't know you could put that on a Marshall amp. I'm like, you can put it on anything.
Yeah.
You just throw it in the right preamp and you're all set, right?
Yeah.
But experimenting. But yeah, like show a young kid how to do that, and he might never go back, or he might hate it.
Well, the other thing about having worked with Tristan, and we've been writing together now for 3 years.
That's
so
very
like I'm
cool.
30 years older than he is. And like it really is fascinating for me to pass on wisdom around signal paths and you know, even the fact that we've been using an SM7B almost exclusively. We had the U87 out the other day, and he's like, percussion sounds really harsh through the U87. I was like, he's like, I think we should only record percussion through the SM7. I'm like, I love this.
Yeah.
You don't understand mics until you've spent an hour or two listening to something through a mic and go, you know what, I officially have a judgment call here that I think this mic is this, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's the wonderful thing about gear. Each thing is so personality ridden. I mean, I own a lot less gear than I used to, and I still don't know the gear that I have. I don't know it well enough. Yeah. Like I sort of feel like the Brian Eno, Dan Lanois approach is own two things and know everything about those things.
Sure. Yeah.
Own this piece of rack gear and know its depths. Know everything about it.
Yeah.
Great River. This Great River of, I think everybody knows what this is. I think it's like a 1073 type of cover. You know, it's a beautiful, well-built, gorgeous sounding machine. Yeah. Because I'm a drummer and you're recording drums, I mean, you got to go API because that's the history of drums, right?
Yeah.
I had distressors. I had other sort of fine input compressors. I don't really use compression on the way in as often as I used to, but I still love to over-compress a vocal with an 1176. I feel like I've been recording vocals the same way. I've wanted to sound like Robert Plant forever. This is what it is. Yep. The LA610, I'm not exactly sure where this came from, but what I love about this machine is that it's a good visual representation of what a signal path looks like. And so when you're dealing with a preamp, a compressor, and then another volume, you get to understand how the three big buttons are responsible for three different stages of volume. And when I'm working with young people and trying to sort of show them how a signal path works, we have a volume that turns up, we have a compressor that turns volume down, and then we have another volume that turns back up. And gain staging is still elemental to how good engineering sounds. And I feel like this box for a young person is a great way to visually see and understand by way that my eyes are seeing this and my ears are hearing results. This machine here is a great way to say, here's how you make a real microphone sound right, you know?
Yeah, and I saw one of the desktop 610s at Long and McQuade, Oshawa. They do sell these vintage pieces, which is cool.
DBX 160, everybody's got to have one. This is another, you want to understand compression.
Yeah.
This 3-knob universe of understanding exactly what the parameters of compression, why it's a sort of a perceived volume gain. Yeah. And then you and I have been talking about Apollo. Look, Apollo, this has changed my life. I used to have Orion Antelope. Now Apollo, everything that, as soon as I bought these things and the plugins that come with them, it sounds like records right out of the gate. To me, I will never go back. I don't really know. I'm sure that the future will bring us all kinds of interesting options, but Apollo and UA is like, it's a game changer. It's allowed me to create my own mixes and stand behind my own mixes. Yep. Coming from a universe where an artist would never be allowed to mix their own material. I come from that era where like artists hands off, let a professional mix. Yep. I feel like if you've got good ears, you'll be able to get a good product with the Apollo.
100%.
Yeah, and then the other Focusrite stuff is all being run by light pipe, so it allows me to have like 30 to 40 inputs. Yeah. As I was mentioning, almost everything in the studio is connected at all times. I'm one of those people that if I had to come and set a mic up and unroll a cable, there's a good chance that the song wouldn't get written that day. So I'm gonna come in, one button and go. Everything is plugged in. Everything is absolutely ready. Awesome. You want this, we do that. You want this, we do that. It's kind of, it's how I like to think.
And question, what is your switching mechanism between monitors?
Great question. I mean, I run like the old-fashioned days.
Okay.
I switch here on the patch bay.
Yep.
But I did some extra sound treatment to the room, and I really like the sound in my room all of a sudden.
Right.
I got these NS10s at a real deal, and just being an old timer, like NS10s are the feeling of a real studio to me.
Yeah.
You get off in LA, you go to a real studio, there's NS10s. You go to a real studio, there's NS10s. I know nobody likes the way they sound, and I don't like the way they sound either, but I like that I have them, and I like that there's something nostalgic. So all of these speakers, I find just having a variety of listening environments or listening textures. What is incredible is that while I think I've heard Fleetwood Mac Rumors 7,000 times, I think that sounds the same on every set of speakers. But now that I am intimately connected to several sets of speakers, I know that we've been listening to music and it sounds vastly different, even if it's been great mastered properly. A speaker reveals a lot. Like while I would say like pros all mix quiet, you should probably 90% of your time mixing should be quiet. There is a time I feel like when you're mixing, because I still come from an era where I'm mixing for people who are listening to music on speakers. I know most people are mixing music for people who are living their lives in headphones, which is most everybody. But I want to know sometimes if the air is coming off these cones properly. Like, and I find the focal or the focals, like, they have an efficiency with the way they move air. I have these like kind of like Best Buy type speakers, like the kind that Dad gets when
you kind of need them, right?
You need them because you need to understand how it wants to operate.
Yeah, you know those Beats by Dre. There's coloring,
huge coloring,
Bose coloring,
huge.
You got to know,
yes.
And you got to flip on something with the coloring to hear your mix.
Yep.
Go neutral. Go with your nice monitors and see kind of where am I at here.
Totally.
Sit in the car with it. Right?
100%. I feel that a speaker is obviously mechanical, and I find that I like to do big volume listens if I want to see if the speaker looks and feels like it's responding in a rhythmic way, and that that I don't feel a crunch against the speaker movement and the air movement.
Right.
I want to feel air and speaker moving and undulating as one. And I feel like sometimes you just need to turn a speaker up to hear that.
Yeah.
You need to feel it on your face, that power. It's like, oh, do I believe the wind, literally? Do I believe the wind that's coming off this cone? If I believe it, I'm getting close. If it feels like, I don't believe this wind, I don't believe the heat that's coming at me, then something's not right, you know?
Yeah. No, that's great. And great rundown here on the gear. This is exciting. I'm just so happy that you've got a 610 and an 1176. You're speaking my language, especially the Apollos. That's amazing. I've taken Apollos out to jams. Something, the rack mounted ones. Plug it all in, had my MacBook Pro, bring it home, and my buddy's like, dude, how'd you get that recording? I'm like, well, it's good gear, goes a long way. Right? I'd
love to say that, I still think you got to know something about engineering to make these sound good.
You do.
But also you don't. You can kind of fudge it, and UA is going to help you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in for the first of a series called Geeks and Gear. Hawksley, it's been a wonderful time with you.
I'm glad to have been your first geek.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little drive up to Peterborough doesn't hurt anybody.
No.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next video.